Well, welcome again to another episode of Raising the Grade, podcast sponsored by Rising Tide Landscapes, and he's fired. He has his phone on. No, just kidding. Today I've got with me a really special guest. Kind of hooked up in a random way. I went and toured their place here in Scottsdale and looked at how they do their fire bowls and stuff. And then one of my other buddies said, well, hey, I know Matt. You should talk to Matt. So we're here today with Matt, regional sales manager of 11 Western states.
That's right.
And PebbleTec. So welcome.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
This is going to be a fun chat. We already had to shut up pre-cameras rolling.
Yeah, we got right into it right out of the gate. So,
Matt, I try to make it as comfortable as possible after this question, but first I try to kind of hit everybody in the mouth and really ask, who is Matt? Tell me a little bit about your history, where you were, how you ended up doing what you're doing. Give me kind of the quick elevator speech.
Okay, what do we got here? I don't do this too often. So
Nobody does.
Grew up in Seattle, Northwest boy, right? So,
Are you happy you got out of there?
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I was around Portland.
I mean, if I had enough money, I'd have a second house there in the summer. But
amen.
Living there full time is not the
Pikes
place to be.
Peak, yeah.
But-
Pikes Market, sorry.
But yeah, growing up in Washington, who would have known I'd be in the swimming pool industry? That'd be probably about the last thing that crossed my mind growing up, right? I'm gonna go work on
Yeah,
swimming
four
pools.
people there have a pool.
Yeah, right. So what happened was I was the kid in high school who was the trying to take college classes and be the overachiever type kid,
Okay.
getting good grades, right? I wanted to go to college and didn't know what I wanted to do.
Okay.
I just wanted to be successful, if you will. So, did that, went to University of Washington for a couple of years.
UW.
Yeah, UW, baby.
I had
Nice.
I had a purple jacket when Napoleon Kaufman was running back. I think
Yeah.
I was in 7th grade, but
That's awesome.
yeah, continue. Sorry.
But no, yeah, so I did that, and then my mom got married and moved down to Tucson with my stepdad.
What was a dirty tea?
I
Okay.
don't know. They just thought that was a good place
I
to
have
be,
family down
guess,
there right
you know?
now, and I'm dragging my nephew up here to come work with me.
So yeah, here I come. Never been to Arizona. Come down there, Tucson in December, and of course, even though it's probably cold for us now that we've lived here 20 years at the time.
Isn't
I
that
was
weird?
Like, wow, this is like paradise.
Mhm.
Like, what am I doing in Seattle? This is horrible. So I told my parents, I'm like, mark my word, I will be down here in 1 year. And literally almost a year to the date, I was down here, meaning Phoenix.
Yeah.
Because I knew there wasn't a whole lot going on in Tucson. So anyway, moved to Phoenix, met a guy. First guy I met, I don't know how I even hooked up with him. Met this guy. He was doing pool service at the time.
Okay.
I think I'm 20 years old at the time, and I'm looking at this kid. And I'm like, this kid is making pretty good money, like cleaning pools, And I'm like, if he can do it, I can definitely do it, right?
Love
So that's
that.
kind of what started that whole thing spinning. And his brother actually had a pool repair company.
Okay.
So I'm out there, of course I'm young, right? I'm young and broke. I'm 20. I'm working at Costco. I'm working as a server at a restaurant. And
I love serving. Did you love serving?
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it.
I think everyone should do it once in their life for sure.
That's a good, yeah. I think
know?
we should work that into the program of life. You got to be a server for a minute, so you know how you're treating those people, right?
100%.
All right, keep going. So
So anyways, I'm doing that. I'm a broke guy. So of course, I have this Ford Bronco, and I'm out in the driveway. I'm jacking it up and fixing the brakes and the 4-wheel drive and everything. So this guy's brother that I knew said, man, this guy, he's pretty mechanical. He can work on stuff, So he goes, hey, you want to do pool repairs? And I'm like, yeah, I'll do pool
I
repairs.
like your flow. It's like you're just kind of floating down the river of life here. Okay.
So then I get into so I don't know anything about pools. I don't know how to clean them. I don't know anything about water chemistry. So I jump right into doing pool repairs, which is kind of a rocky transition, right? Like let me
I
teach
feel
you how
like
to
that's
plumb
bull
stuff
by
and
the horns.
Let me teach you how to do electrical and plumbing and all the different things that are involved in doing repairs, gas heaters.
Yeah, now I hear the code enforcement is mild, right? Like anybody, you could go do all those things. I'm
Yeah.
just saying,
Yeah.
it's crazy to me. Coming from where we came from, where it's very, let's just say, there's lots of regulations there.
Yeah.
It's a little bit less here.
Yeah, I mean, in some cases, there's now that I'm traveling more in this regional position, you go to markets like El Paso, Texas, for example. You want to talk about no regulation.
I've heard.
It literally makes us look really, really good in Phoenix as far as our standards.
I think we're in a sweet spot. I'm not going to lie. Being in the building industry my whole life, I think it's a good mix here of oversight and not cramming stuff down your throat.
Yeah, no, I think so too. And when you look at both sides of now we're going down. See, now we just diverted. We took a right turn.
Okay,
and
sorry.
went down.
We're working on pool equipment. We're almost through your story here.
Yeah, I was just going to tell you.
But I feel like we're not.
So it's just that's how I got into it, right? So and then I did that. I only really worked for that company for a year, and then I started my own business at say 22, doing service and repair. So
awesome.
My career-wise progression in the swimming pool industry which is good in many respects, I think, going into doing construction, is I started on the service repair side. Then I moved away from service and just had a dedicated repair company with 4 full-time techs and myself. So, I mean, we were cranking out.
Love it.
We were rocking and rolling at that time. We could do 15, 20 service calls and repairs a day, right?
A day?
A day, yeah. I mean, we had...
5 guys, 3
I had
stops a day?
I had the big Ford Transit vans, and I had them fully stacked with inventory up, to the ceiling. So instead of rolling up in a pickup truck with stuff piled up high, where you're searching for stuff, right? Or, I don't have that, I have to come back. Now, not that I could carry everything, but I had probably 80% of the most common stuff. So people were always surprised because I go, all right, well, this is the price. And if you're ready to go, like, we'll do it right now. What do you mean right now? I'm like, right now. We're gonna go out to the van, we're gonna get the parts, and we're gonna make it happen. They're
That's
like, no
awesome.
way. Because no one else ever, not saying no one does that. There's companies that have, a lot of inventory, but it's
a little 1 in 10. Right?
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
It was a little rare at that time for someone to just go, hey, I got the common stuff and I'm knocking this out right now.
Cool.
So anyway, had the repair company, and that's a whole other thing. If I had to go back and analyze one of the most profitable pieces of the pool industry, I would say it's the repair
Fascinating.
industry. Because of course, I'm going from that. I'm like, well, what's the next step to grow? Well, the next step is you start remodeling pools. The next step is after that, you start building pools, right? Mm-hmm. So then I did that. And I started remodeling a bunch of pools. And I started building pools. And then now that I don't have my own business and I work for PebbleTec, I step back and look at, if I had to do it again, if analyzing, right? You step back and take a break and pause and go, repair is pretty good, because you think about it, you get in and out, you do the job, customer's happy, you get paid right then and there.
Cash flow is good.
And then you move on.
Mm-hmm.
You start getting into the remodel and builds, you get the glory, like look at this really cool project I built, right? And you can post awesome pictures on Instagram, and that's cool. It feels good to build something like that. But then people don't know all the nitty gritty and the challenges that come with that, and the liability and the different things that can go wrong. Even though you try to do everything right and you try to dot your I's and cross your T's, when you get into these big construction projects, there's so many variables.
Yeah, you start talking about, $60,000 remodel, $100,000, $300,000. I mean, this is real money with real contracts, real liabilities, lots of moving parts. You're relying on, sometimes probably 15 subs. If it's the crazy pool build out. I mean, even in my little world, like, we might have 3 to 6 different subs on a landscape remodel.
Yep.
Wow, that's fascinating. How long did you do the pool? Remodeling, building, and then when did you make the move to PebbleTec?
So, geez, I think we were talking about this before we started. I think maybe the construction side I did for about 12 years, I'd say.
Okay.
So started doing a ton. I just kind of went from the ground up. I'm like, I'm going to get really good at remodels and know all the nitty gritty with remodels, which in some cases are actually harder than new builds.
1,000%, I think.
You've
got to discover and then think like, well, what was he thinking?
Right. You're having to fix a lot of mistakes and whatever deficiencies, if you will, with some of these jobs.
How much tougher can something be to bid than I'm going to go do this for you, but I don't know how it's done already? That's a challenging role.
Well, you just got to have a lot of good disclosures, which is what. But the problem is you don't learn a lot of these disclosures until you start doing it.
Well,
every job you do, you add another disclosure to your contract. It's like,
amen.
Wow, I never thought about that random possibility of that happening. Mm-hmm. That's just totally in left field, but it happened over here, so we better add that in there.
And then you got to get everybody to sign every line because they just don't read. It's tough. It's like, I thought we'd talk about this. It's like, well, no, we didn't know about this.
Yeah, that's what I mean. By no, obviously I've been in the industry a long time. I've learned a lot from what I've done. So
sure.
By no means do I know everything. I probably never will. There's so many things to learn.
That's what we got ChatGPT for, man.
I learn every day. That's what blows my mind about the pool industry is like, you would think you would start getting pretty close. No, there's always next level. You can always take everything next level and get it really into the nitty gritty of every little topic, and
there's some really, really insane accounts on, you mentioned Instagram specifically. I think of like Lucas Lagoons. Those are wild.
Yeah.
And then who's the guy? There's some guys local here. There's a really big duo. Oh, I can't bring them up right now. I can't
We've
think
got
of their
some
name.
pretty top-notch builders in this town.
There's some insane work going on out there.
I mean, these pools are just becoming more. It's not just a pool anymore, right? Like it's a lot more than that. It's features and lights and water features and
sunken this, floating that,
Yeah,
cantilevered this, see through that.
Yeah. So it's like there's no such. It's just funny how the transition happened from a pool's just a rectangle, with a deep end and a shallow end. No, that's what I was. I'll backtrack for 1 second. What I was going to say is. I try to help some guys that are just getting into the remodel business, right, and tell them what I know. And that's on the disclosure thing, that's one of the things I tell them is, look, just let me share with you what I used to use, but by no means is this the be-all and end-all. Constantly evaluate what you're doing, how you're doing it, how you're communicating with people, because that's such a huge part of running a successful business is, and to your point, you can have everything on there, and they can even sign everything. But to your point, you're halfway in the project and something happens and they go, well, what do you mean? You go, yeah, you signed that contract. Like you said, they don't read it. Do you remember you signed that, right? And you don't want to like throw it back in someone's face necessarily in a bad way, but it's like
it's so hard.
You're trying to cover yourself. And,
and it's for everybody. Hey, this is what we're getting into. This is what this might look like. Golly, I hope not, but worst case, we might be looking at this, or maybe there's even more. It's really hard. So I like that, and I think anybody watching this should heed that and really really do some research into a healthy disclosure. I just this morning, me and my office manager were updating my terms as I was walking out the door. Actually,
Yeah.
So I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, and you just get, and here's it's funny because I had some people that send in my contract and they go, "This is just ridiculous. There's just so many pages," and I kind of chuckled and I said, "Unfortunately, I just in order to communicate all the nuances of construction, as you said, there's four. A matter of fact that you were counting the amount of trades on some of your jobs. Interestingly, this morning I was thinking to myself, I'm like, how many different trades are in the pool business? I was counting it up. I think I counted 10 or 11 or 12 on my hands, right, just into a pool. Because you got concrete and rebar and tile and interior finish and plumbing and electrical and deck and all these different phases, right? So there's so many things. But anyway, people would say, wow, this is just ridiculous. And I'd say, well, I know, but building the pool is a little more complicated than meets the eye, so there has to be.
Amen. Yeah.
So, but then on the flip side, so you get the people complaining that it's too long. But then if it's not long enough and you're not being detailed, then you got another problem. So
there's this happy medium, me and my sales guy. So obviously that was kind of on our plate this morning. My sales guy was in the office and, I was showing him, I think we're going to do this and this. We're going to make this change. Like, man, it's really long.
Yeah.
And so I get it. Like from a sales guy's percentage, he wants to be like one page, sign here. Yeah. But the truth is like, it just doesn't work like that. You got to have the disclosures and everything kind of built into there. So I want to learn a little bit more about kind of I think in the next couple of years, I want to get into building pools. So I've kind of done the construction angle. I've done, maybe not. Maybe I'm just going to keep subbing them out. Or, just like not, just give them to somebody else.
Yeah.
But because, I got to be honest, like probably 2 out of 10 calls I get, and and maybe sometimes I get all the way out there, and then it's like, oh, we're gonna do a pool,
right?
It's like, oh, well, we don't do pools.
It'd be kind of cool if I could do that and wrap my whole.
And so that's kind of what I'm thinking. I know there's a lot of liability and stuff there, but you've kind of told me about your journey. You ended up at PebbleTec. How did that happen?
So I tell this story a lot, and I talk to builders, and they can relate. And for me, really, what it was it's interesting because for 20-something years running my own business, I was always highly motivated, right? Like I'd wake up every morning early with just like, I had the vision of what I was going to do and how many more trucks I was going to get and the latest, detail on a project that I wanted to build or try or whatever, right?
How fun.
Always take it to the next level. I always had that. Like I never was lacking motivation or hunger or drive, right? But for me, this is just my personal story. For me, what happened was during COVID, it was tough on everyone. It was horrible. I mean, you couldn't get PVC pipe, you couldn't get pumps, couldn't get concrete.
Yeah, you could charge 3 times the price, but you could only get 1/3 of the materials.
Yeah, so like all that stuff I could deal with. Was it challenging? Absolutely. You know, I'm sitting there hoarding thousands of dollars worth of material just so I could build a project. Because if hey, you have that right now, I'm gonna go buy everything you have. You know, or you got plumbing, cool. I'm gonna buy $20,000 worth of plumbing just so I have it. Right?
That kept happening over and over. Yep.
So I could deal with that. That was fine. But for me personally, what happened, which really just kind of killed my spirit, if you will, is the people aspect of running a business.
Okay.
And so that's just me.
Fair.
And
it's hard.
And it, as everyone knows during COVID, it was just everyone's mentality changed. There was so much division and divisiveness and with politics and everything else, right? But that translated to like every area of life. And what was interesting is I always feel like, number one, I'm a people person. I love meeting new people. I like making friends. I like building relationships. So I always enjoyed talking to my customers. And it was like during that 3-year period, I was like, I'm not really enjoying talking to people. They're angry, they're mad, their job's taking too long, it's delayed. Yeah. And I feel like I'm one of the most honest, transparent persons there are. I just tell people if it's good news, bad news, whatever it is, I'm just going to tell it to you. I'm going to be honest, right? And no matter what I told people, they don't believe you. You're a liar. I'm like,
how could that be?
No. Yeah. And so for me, that's what kind of killed my spirit is like, I still was passionate about building the projects, but the people side really just kind of ate me up, So I said, man, it's time for a change. I got to try something new here, Okay. And so that's kind of what led me to PebbleTec. Really, that was my story of what.
Did you have like a really good working relationship with PebbleTec beforehand? Like, is that part of the deal? Like, I see that crossover a lot. Like with previous guests, even like they're like, well, I shop there all the time, or this vendor came in there all the time, and so there's some.
It's interesting you asked that. I'm glad you did. So yes, matter of fact, what happened was. We make a line of glass tile for swimming pools called Lightstreams Glass Tile.
All right.
So the founder of Lightstreams, his name's David Knox. He's out of California.
Okay.
And I had been buying and purchasing his glass tile for years on all my projects. As a matter of fact, if someone said they wanted glass, they didn't have a choice. I'm saying, the only glass I'm installing is Lightstreams glass. That's a whole other topic we can talk about.
Why? Yeah, so go there, continue, but go back to Lightstreams.
Well, so Lightstreams, you want me to talk about Lightstreams real quick?
Sure.
Easy. I'll try to break it down as quick as I can, but not all glass tiles created equal. Okay. All right. So a lot of the glass tile that you'll see being sold from pool tile distributors, I won't mention their name. Everyone knows who the big pool tile distributors in town are.
Yep.
Most of the tile that they sell is mesh back glass. Okay. So if you look at the industry standards, again, raising the grade, you look at the standards. If you look, there's different stuff out there, but one of them is the TCNA handbook, the Tile Council of North America handbook. I call it the Tile Bible. Okay. And I actually carry it around with me when I go to builders. I show them. So you don't have to believe me here. Let me go to page 238 and I'll show you here.
I love this.
Here's the standard right here.
Okay.
So one of the standards is, now actually this isn't just for glass, believe it or not. I actually learned this from a guy named Ken Milbury, who's one of the industry's tile experts, if you will. Okay. And he said, actually, that standard applies to porcelain and ceramic tile in pools as well. Okay. Really. So any tile in a wet or submerged environment, which is obviously the definition of a pool.
Waterline tiles there all the time, as his name, right?
Right. Okay. So and there's I won't go into all the nitty gritty because you need flexible membranes to allow the tile to move. You need movement joints. You need obviously high quality setting materials and grout and other stuff. But one of the key requirements is that a tile in a wet or submerged environment should have 95%, they call it bond coat. So bond coat meaning your thin set, or it could be like an epoxy adhesive, right? Okay. So the tile should be able to have 95% of its surface area coated with the thin set or bond coat, okay? Okay. Well, if you look at a mesh back tile, and you hold it together, and you look at it, and I don't know the exact percentage because obviously every tile is a little bit different, but let's just say maybe you're only getting 50 to 60% thin set
Adhesion,
or
yeah.
bond coat adhesion on that tile. So just by the nature of it being a mesh back tile by itself, it doesn't meet that industry standard for installation in a water submerged.
So how do you get around it?
So there are some higher quality tile manufacturers out there, such as Lightstream. And if you find a tile that has a paper face, or Lightstreams, in the case of Lightstreams, it's a clear tape face. So there's no backer.
Oh, it's the opposite. It's the inverse. You're basically, there's nothing on the back. There's no mesh on the back.
Nothing.
It's paper on the face.
Right.
What an easy solution.
Well, but ours is clear plastic, so you can actually see where you're setting the line with the ground.
Yeah.
Paper's a little trickier because you can't really see very well.
Yeah, forget that.
Everyone
I would want to
hates
work with
paper.
that. Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
but so long story short is, now it's 100% raw glass. Now you can get 100% coverage over that glass.
Yeah.
So
Love it.
So for me, again,
It's a little detail that makes a big difference.
exactly. And so we can talk about this, but I took a lot of the Genesis and water. Genesis is an organization in the pool industry that kind of a high level continuing education
Okay.
classes for pool construction primarily. They do
Like
teach.
one aspect or bringing all the facets of pool construction together.
They have all sorts of classes. They have,
Okay.
beginner construction, advanced construction. They have water hydraulics classes, so you can properly size plumbing lines for particular flows and
Awesome.
pipe flow velocities.
There's so much that goes into a pool build, like even a simple pool build.
Yeah.
I was talking through it with a guy we'll refer out, and I was like, wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Just all the names. Like it's a whole different vernacular.
Right. So they have all classes spanning the
Okay.
spectrum: glass tile, shotcrete, hydraulics, whatever.
Rebar, your dig, my
Soil
mind's buzzing
conditions,
right now.
testing, just all sorts of things. So, long story short, I was a pretty religious attendee of these classes every year. They would have it at primarily they would have the big classes at the International Pool and Spa Show every year.
Where's that? Florida, probably?
Well, they alternated
Yeah.
in the past between Orlando, Vegas, and New Orleans. And it was just a constant rotation between those three cities. So anyway, long story short, I was a pretty religious attendee of those, right? So when I learned these things, right, I'm like, okay, well, I have to implement it into my business. So what was funny, and I tell builders this now because obviously now I represent Lightstreams. It's part of PebbleTec.
Okay.
And so
the rest of the story.
but it's so expensive. Like the tile itself is more money, just the tile. But then again, when you follow the standards, when you do a flexible membrane behind the tile, when you do silicone movement joints, when you use a more expensive setting material and grout like Latacrete, Latacrete or Latacrete?
I don't know.
Someone told me I think you pronounce it Latacrete.
Well, I know a guy. There's a guy coming on in like an hour.
You were telling me that.
Steve's coming on, and he's going to talk me through everything Latacrete. So,
Perfect.
or Latacrete or Latacrete.
I think it's
We're going to
Latacrete.
ask him, and if he can't answer, we got a problem.
So
Okay.
what I was saying though is so now you got more expensive setting material, more expensive grout, movement. You got all these things you have to do. Well,
Somebody's got to pay for that.
it's going to cost more money.
Yeah.
It's going to be more labor. So what I tell people all the time, they kind of look at me. I go, "This is how I would do it when I was a builder. Maybe I was a little hard nosed, but I would look at them and say, okay, so you want glass, no problem. If we're going to do glass, we're only going to do Lightstreams, and here's why." And I go through the standards. Hey, it doesn't have mesh backing. It's a tile that's not made of recycled glass. It's actually made of raw glass that's never been fired into anything before. So I'm going through all these things, and I'm explaining to them why you want to do it this way, because it's going to actually stay on the wall. The glass isn't going to crack or fall off the wall and all these things. But I'd say, here's the deal. For me to do it by the book, by the standards, which very few people are doing, it's going to cost you like 3 times the amount. So you could get this tile over here with installation for, say, I don't know, $20, $25 per lineal foot. I'm probably going to be at, I don't know, 75, maybe something 80. I mean, I don't know. It depends on the job.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is I would just look them dead in the eye and go, that's what it's going to be. And I sold the heck out of it.
Yeah.
I never had a problem selling it.
You can sell things if you can justify it,
Right.
and there's a really good, honest reason. You're not just like, hey, I've got this turf with a certain color of backing, and so it's better. Well, why is it better? Because it's this color. No, BS. There's so much of that going on, so much smoke and mirrors. But if you can break things down like you just did, like Lightstream,
Yeah. Lightstreams, yeah.
I'm buying Lightstream. If I ever do a pool, like I'm sold because I get it. Like, yes, I want things to be done right. So as you kind of segued into this, but now I'm kind of curious because this is fun to hear it third party. You don't know Steve. You happen to have used Latacrete before. Tell me about when you were a pool builder, one of the things that kept happening to you, and how'd you fix it?
Oh yeah, so we were chatting about this earlier. So typical pool, let's say typical pool is getting 6x6 ceramic or porcelain waterline tile, right? The vast majority of tile setters, in my experience,
In our
as a
area,
builder,
which is Arizona.
in Arizona and Phoenix, what they want to do is they want to set the tile, with whatever thin set they're using, probably not the highest quality stuff. They want to set it and they want to grout the tile the same day. And still, right now, if you ask around 10 pool builders, they'll all tell you. If you ask them, hey, does your tile get grouted the same day? Yeah. My guy sets it and grouts it.
Yeah,
He's
we're
out-
fast.
He's out of there. Yeah, we're fast. We knock it out
I mean,
quick.
it's tough. So let's pause there.
Yeah.
There's this tough spot between setting expectations and like, well, so-and-so promised a really short pool build, so we're going to go with them.
Right.
Did you ask why?
Exactly.
Continue.
No, again, back to the education piece. It's like, it's hard because you have to try to educate these consumers. And how do you educate them on 20 years worth of experience and the 15 Genesis classes that I've taken over the how do
To
you
really know what you know and support your price.
Correct.
Ultimately, it translates to price.
Correct.
You can go to, it's everywhere. You can go to mechanic A or mechanic B.
Right.
And if this guy's $500 and this guy's $5,000, there's a reason.
yeah
You
and you
know?
don't have hours to educate them, so how do you do that effectively?
Well, I think you posed a really good question, but like you honed in on the glass, and I'm kind of sold on the
Yeah.
glass. Finish your
Oh, yeah.
story
So, okay.
on what happened with this particular water tile, the problem you were facing, and how you fixed it.
Right. So super common. Tile gets set, then setted, whatever, gets grouted the same day. Okay, so every single job that I was doing, the pool gets the interior finished, PebbleTec, pool gets filled, and literally the first day you're seeing white efflorescence coming through all the joints in the tile immediately. I'm like, why is that? You can acid wash it. It just, it comes back instantly. So I'm analyzing it, right? And of course I start looking it up and it's like, wait a minute, this thin set needs to actually cure for a minimum of 14 days.
You
to
read the
properly
bag
cure.
or read the spec somewhere, right?
Yeah, correct. You could
Continue.
It's as simple as literally, you don't have to break out a standard book to see that. You could look at the bag.
Usually. Yep. Okay. Keep going.
No, it's a great point you bring up though, because it just makes it seem all the more silly that someone wouldn't even read something basic.
Okay, so this to this point, right? Like we're all human, right? So I'm 7. We've moved to a farm. My dad wants to be a farmer. Not really, he's in restaurants, but we were on a farm, 9 acres. There's this old piece of equipment there. He didn't know what it did. And so he starts winding this thing up and he sees these gears just zipping inside. And so what does he do? Finger's gone.
Oh.
Right? It was a corn shucker. So he shucked his finger, right? We're driving to the hospital. He's not too happy. I'm like the backseat, you little kid. And I'm like, hey, why didn't you use a stick? And so read the bag. The information's probably there. Slow down a little bit.
Call the rep.
Call the rep.
Call Steve.
Everybody wants to help. No, literally.
I know.
I think that's one of the things. Is like we're all just like, give me in, give me out. I want to make my money. Let's go. Okay.
So anyways,
finish
there's
your
that
story.
fluorescence. I'm like, this isn't right. And you ask the sub, oh no, that's just what happens. It's normal. You'll get efflorescence. No, it's not. There's got to be something here.
There's got to be.
So long story short, I figured out, okay, this thin set needs to cure for 14 days, right? And of course, you're gonna go to the sub and tell them to do something out of the norm that they don't ever do, because they do the same thing on every job and no one else says anything to them. So I say, hey, we're not gonna grout this tile after you set it. We're gonna let this sit for 2 weeks, right? And they're like, no, we don't do that. And I said, well, hey, I'm willing to pay. I know your time's money, right? So if it's $125, if it's a trip charge, if it's $150, whatever the number is, just let me know.
Yeah.
And it'll be built into the price for the job to the customer, right? And we'll make it right. So long story short, they did, and they like it? Probably not, but they did it. They come back, they grout 2 weeks later. But in addition to that, they were using some, won't mention the brand, but just cheap grade grout, right? And which is a lot more porous. You get into a higher grade laticrete grout. And actually I did talk to the laticrete rep, and they're like going through all the different grouts, and like this one will allow 7% water penetration. This one will only allow 4 to 5%. This one only allows 2%, so you have these different grades of grout you can get. And anyway, so I just used the Laticrete Basic Permacolor grout, which is just still a high grade grout compared to other brands.
Yeah, their low grade exceeds most entry level stuff that you're going to find at some other places.
100%. And the way you can tell, so it's funny when you mix this stuff up, even the tile setters, you can smell all the polymers and like chemicals in there. Like, wow, this has got something in there.
It's the goods. Yeah.
You can smell it, and not only that, but it sets up on you quick too. Like even that basic stuff, like it'll cooks off on you a lot faster than like some cheap grout, So you can tell that it's a better quality product. But long story short, I started using that, and we talked about this briefly, but their products aren't necessarily sold in every distributor, right? They have select distributors that sell them.
Sure.
So of course I'm like, if I leave this up to my sub, they're not going to go out of their way to go to Arizona Tile in Tempe. That's one of the biggest distributors I found was Arizona Tile in Tempe. I mean, they got stacks of everything in there. So I'm like, they're not going to do it. So I'll take it upon myself. I'll go, buy everything that I'm going to use on a regular basis and stack it, in my container in my back of my property.
I love this because I'm trying to do the same thing with even down to the emitters I want to use, to the lights I want to use, to the transformers I want to use, so I don't get left with, oh yeah, we got it taken care of. Well, what'd you get? I don't know.
Yeah.
Once
I started doing that, guess what happened? Let the thin set cure properly per the bag. Use a higher quality grout. Guess what? I had zero efflorescence on any of my pools after I started that process.
I love this. You're really you're challenging me. I hope you're challenging everybody out there to just slow down, take a look at your process, take a look at why are you doing things this way? Is it because it's being forced on you?
Right.
Or is it because it's what you actually want to do, or because it's actually the right thing that's going to hold up the manufacturer's warranty, stand the test of time? Probably most of those things are going to cost more money.
100%.
I feel like we're in a weird market too, where I've seen pavers for $6 a foot, all in. There's
installed,
all in pavers installed, base everything. Like somebody's making $10 an hour, if that, and all the way up to 15, 17 for just concrete pavers. So there's just this. It's so weird to see just such a wide margin in a given area for different things. It's area specific, it's kind of product specific, but
and back to the grout thing, right? So you were talking about time frame. Hey, I can get this thing done for you. Okay, so now check it out. You do this tile, and the homeowner is looking out their window, and they're like, "There's no one's been here for what's wrong with
this guy? Are you
guy?
coming? Yeah.
What's wrong with this guy?" Once again, education piece. Hey, so when we're done setting the tile, now there's probably other things on the job you could be doing while that thin set's curing possibly. But
you make a great point.
But they're looking and they're like, man, this guy's lazy. Like I haven't seen any action back here. Well, there's a reason though. I'm purposely not doing anything. We can't move forward until this cures properly.
I think you just bought a lot of pool guys a little breath of fresh air where they're going to be like, why haven't you been here for 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Well, I watched this podcast.
Start using that line, the grout's drying, or the thin set's curing out.
Thin set's curing.
We got a little delay here.
It's true, but okay, so you're killing it in the service game, you're killing it in the pool game, and then you've got this relationship with PebbleTec. How did you guys?
Yeah, so we were talking about that briefly. So light streams, right?
Okay, yep.
So I would only sell light streams.
Okay.
And I knew the founder, David Knox, so I talked to him fairly frequently. And of course, I'm always picking his brain. I'm like, what's the best site material I should be using here, and how should I do this or that, right? So he kind of knew me from that, even though I was by no means the biggest builder or building the most high-end projects in town, right? But I was always curious and wanting to learn. So
it shows you care.
Yeah.
I can tell.
So long story short, it was kind of cool because our former president of PebbleTec, he wanted to do light streams on his pool. So he reached out to David Knox because PebbleTec had just acquired light streams and said, hey, who do you recommend to do the tile? And he said, I recommend Matt Sharp. And I'm like, that's a pretty cool referral. Like, that makes me feel good, right?
How fun.
So I ended up doing the tile. Our former president's name's Daryl Eckstein. So I ended up doing the tile on his pool and got to know him a little bit, right? And then the former VP of sales and rep that was in my position when I started, the territory manager, they came to me and said, hey, so how do you sell this stuff? Because obviously, again, it's more expensive. What's your pitch? What's your presentation? How do you sell it? So I kind of walked them through what I did as a builder and the conversations I had. So that's kind of how my relationship started with PebbleTec. And I knew the position was open. The territory manager position was open. There was a sales assistant that's no longer with us. And I called her and said, hey, is that position still open? I was standing in front of a remodel in Scottsdale. And I was like,
you'd hit the wall.
Yeah, I hit the wall with him. It's like, something's got to
Yeah.
change.
Oh,
So
man.
I call her up. She goes, yeah, send me your resume. And so it worked out.
Very
Worked out
cool.
great. And I think it's worked out. I enjoy it. I love my job, actually. I
It
get
shows.
to deal with pool builders all day and build relationships with builders. And, hopefully I can be a resource to them and help them out and based on my experience. And, I just love the job. I really do enjoy it. So I think it's worked out both for myself and for PebbleTec.
It's so, like, this happens probably every guest, and I'm probably a broken record for anybody that watches more than 2 of these, but it's so interesting to me how it's almost like all of my guests, like, they couldn't be sitting where they were sitting without, like, kind of like their life pattern.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of like pushes them all to what they're doing. Do you see maybe something on the horizon after PebbleTec? Are you going to keep climbing the ladder at PebbleTec? Or, and I'm not trying to talk you out of a job here, but I'm just saying, like, do you have any, like, hey, I'm going to retire in 10 years and go start a bed and breakfast? Or anything like that on the out there?
You
Or
know
just
what?
good?
You know what? I really don't.
Fair.
I really don't. I just like to continue learning and growing. So whether that's, it's interesting as a builder, right? Did I ever do a presentation in front of 50 people or 80 people or 100 people? No. I talk to homeowners in their backyard. So this job's allowed me to grow in a lot of ways for doing different things I've never done, right? Getting up in front of a room. I've done some presentations, getting up from a room in front of 90 people, right? Mm-hmm. Was that in my comfort zone? Mm-hmm. No.
Oh,
But
good job.
in order to get, like, the phrase, you got to get uncomfortable to get comfortable. It's true. And now it's like, I could go do that and it doesn't give me, sweaty palms, but, so anyway, what I'm saying is this job, this role, this career I'm in now is allowing me to grow in different ways.
I love this.
And, making you broaden your horizons. So I love it. Right. And they took a chance on me, which was cool because I didn't have a sales resume that said, hey, I was successful in this role in sales. Mm-hmm. They took a chance on me with my industry experience and
would you
right?
would you say how much of what you do would you say you could kind of like quantify as sales though? Like I think your title is regional sales manager.
Yeah.
And so, but how much of is it really sales? Like versus like relationship building and your knowledge bank? Like I buy from people generally that I trust. And I know that if I've got a question, I can call them. If I've got a problem, I can call them. Because it's tough out here. Yep. Like, there's so many products and so many things, and there's times when you just got to pick up the phone.
Yep.
How much sales are you really doing?
No, and to your point, I thought about that as well because, technically my role says I'm the sales manager, right? But when I think about it, I don't really, like, think of myself as a sales guy. Like, I'm not giving someone the hard sell on something.
Sure.
Like, I want to be super knowledgeable about the industry. I want to be very knowledgeable about the product. I want to tell you all the nitty gritty and ins and outs and anything you might ask me or my team, right?
I agree.
But to your point, really what our role is with what we do is relationship based. I mean, we're building relationships with people. I mean, now we do sell a superior product.
Let's talk about it.
That we sell a superior product that can help builders solve a problem that they have with maybe the current interior finish that they're selling. Mm-hmm. But to your point, what I want to do is I want myself and my team to be like you said, you have a question or you have a need, we're highly responsive. We answer our phone. We take care of it. We take care of you when there's a problem.
It matters.
Because the service is really where it's all about. Like, we could even have the greatest product, but if our service isn't there or support's not there, you need everything. You need the whole.
If there's no training and you've got a great product and somebody misinstalls it, well, we still got a problem.
Yeah.
Tell me about what it is that is your core of your business and how it kind of happens. Maybe the elevator speech, because honestly, bro, I got zero clue.
Yeah.
I have zero clue. Yeah. I know it's in pools. I know you do shotcrete. I've watched some videos. I get it, but like, what is it?
So, I mean, first and foremost, we have a couple different lines. So our finish line, right, our PebbleTec, Pebble Sheen, our actual interior finishes are really the bread and butter of our business.
Okay.
We do have a fire and water line.
Are they concrete-based, gypsum-based, like polymer, acrylic? Yeah. What is it?
Yeah, so our aggregate is all silica-based.
Okay.
So like if you look at the Mohs hardness scale, right, where it goes all the way from
diamonds to...
Correct.
Yeah. 10
is a diamond. Silica is like a 7 on the hardness scale. When you look at a typical marble-based plaster, which isn't too prevalent in the Phoenix market, but in other markets it is.
Okay.
Typical marble-based plaster is a 3 on the hardness scale, so a lot less dense, softer, right? So everyone kind of knows, hey, you know what, if you put a plaster finish in, depending on your water chemistry, you might only get 5-7 years out of it.
Okay.
You know?
Now this is adding up.
Unless your water chemistry is just dialed, which is rare.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. I know that much. So
all of our finishes, including, we have some plaster-like finishes, like Pebble Fina, which is a hard trowel cement-based finish that looks like plaster.
Okay.
But it's not plaster because we don't have any marble products in our material. So it's all of our finish lines are all silica aggregate. So again, hard, dense, super durable products, right?
Okay. So the aggregate is silica. I don't want to sound naive. I know what silica is. We install silica. It's used for sandblasting and all that. But like, so that's like close to glass, little beads, or, you know, is it different shapes or is it all round? Like,
yeah, it depends on the aggregate source, right? Because we source our aggregate from all over the world.
Sorry, I'm gonna keep going. Is it well, like, how big is it? Is it like grains of sand like the silica I install? Is there different grits or like?
There are.
Okay.
Yeah, there's different gradations of it. So I think I might have this one.
You're
but I think
fine.
on Tech is our original. So PebbleTec is our name, but that's our original finish line is Tech. So Tech is the larger size.
Does it get like as big as like maybe pea gravel or a little bit, or BBs maybe?
Pea gravel is probably a little bit big.
BBs maybe?
I wish I had a sample with me to show you, but it's I think it's like 5 to 10 on the gradation scale.
Okay.
And then you go to Pebble Sheen, which is significantly smaller, like 60% smaller than Tech.
Okay.
And so it's a much smaller aggregate.
Does the price increase as the size goes down?
No.
Other way around, or just kind of all similar?
Well, so
what drives price?
Well, interesting talk on price. So we're a manufacturer. We supply our product to a network of authorized applicators. So we don't just sell to anybody. You can't just pull up
Bob
with a truck
can't
today
just
and
be
we'll
like,
load you up.
need some PebbleTec.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So that's one differentiator with some of our competitors is if you have a truck and your credit card will process, like, we'll sell you whatever you want. Whereas we only sell to a network of authorized applicators. So
awesome.
What that basically means is we vet who we onboard as an applicator. So when someone says, hey, I want to become an applicator, or we go to someone and we say, hey, you know what, we think you'd be a really good fit for this market. We could use another applicator here to better serve our builders. We vet them. So, you know, they put in an application, hey, how many years of experience do you have? How many rigs do you have? How many people do you have in your crew? We kind of ask some basic questions. And then we actually go through a quality assurance approval process. So our quality assurance team will go out there and watch this crew do multiple pool finishes from start to finish. Wow. We have a checklist of like, how do they tie off all their ropes that hang all their tools? Are their tools in good shape? Is their equipment in good shape? Is their truck in good shape? Does the crew work well together? Are they, you know, fighting and bickering in the pool? And most of the time, if our QA team's out there, they're going to be on their, you know, they want to make a good impression.
One would hope.
Right?
Yeah, if that box gets checked, it's a hard pass.
Yeah. They're fighting in the pool. No, but anyways, we kind of go through a whole, it's not just like, hey, does the finish look good? We're going through the whole thing, right?
Okay. That's kind of next level. That's really cool.
Well, just because it's one thing to have their finish looks great, but do they also, and you know, we can only get so far into it, right? But does it appear that this company also runs a good business, right? Do they communicate effectively?
Would you say runs a tight ship?
Well, no, just runs a good business. Like,
darn it.
Like, are they going to be an applicator that we're going to onboard that's like going to communicate effectively with their builders? And if an issue comes up, are they going to, you know, resolve it quickly and things like that? So
they're just got the characteristics you want for a good partnership and good extension of your company.
Right.
Okay, so tell me more. Get back to what the product is.
Yeah.
Like, what's the product and what is the binder? Like, I think I'm missing some key element here. Is it cementuous? Is it what's the binder that holds it all together?
So white Portland cement, and there's different types of white Portland cement.
Okay.
Which I'm still learning about, so I can't spit off all the numbers of types, but there are different types of white cement actually, and some applicators, and we're dealing with the whole country. So we're dealing with some people that are in the Northeast where they get really cold weather, so they might use a different type of cement than someone out here when it's 110. Right?
Back to your reading the bag. Like, let's put the right thing in the right spot.
Or some applicators have a preference for different brands of cement. So we don't actually sell the cement. What we sell is the aggregate and the pigment. That's really what we sell.
Yeah, because you can get like a lagoon look or different looks by the pigment that you put in, right?
Absolutely, yeah. The rock combination, or what we would call a batch formula.
Yeah. So people are going to get this colorant, this aggregate. You go get your own white cement.
Right.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So So that's what we do. But the difference with us really is we consider we're a manufacturer versus just simply a distributor, right? So some of our competition is literally
You're both and, right?
well, some of our competition. I mean, we're talking about rock, right? So people are like, well, how complicated is rock? Well, a little more than you think.
Honestly.
We're not just scooping it up out of a quarry and throwing it in a bag. And that's why I say we're a manufacturer, because we bring in all of our raw aggregate from our various sources around the world to our 2 plants. So we have a plant in Mesa, in East Mesa,
Okay.
that supplies the whole western United States. And
Cool.
then we have a plant in Slidell, Louisiana, which supplies the Midwest and the East Coast.
I would love to visit that plant. I will say
Yeah.
outright. That would be
Yeah.
a really fun thing for me and a project manager and maybe
Absolutely.
the salesman. Just because that'd be fun.
Yeah, so the big thing is, and this isn't me, I tell builders this all the time. Look, it's not me telling you this. Talk to one of our applicators. I'll give you their number, because I ask my applicators, all of them, existing, the new applicators, especially the new ones that have come on,
Yeah.
that we brought on in Phoenix. And I say, hey, just shoot me straight. What do you think about our material? Don't
Yeah.
sugarcoat it for me. Just tell me the truth. No, it's better. Our crews can tell that it's better. A matter of fact, I have a new applicator I just spoke with a couple weeks ago, and I was having the same kind of conversation. He goes, no, you know what? Now that my crew's been installing PebbleTec, literally when they occasionally we'll get another job, an off brand, one of our competitors' brands, and they go, oh man, do we really have to put this in? We'd rather do PebbleTec, because they can see the difference when they're troweling it, the way it compacts, the way it finishes, when they're rinsing the finish to expose the aggregate, just everything about it, they can really see the difference and the workability of our material. So
cool.
But the point is, what we're trying to do is we're trying to really carefully grade the aggregate. So if it's pebble sheen, it's got to meet this certain gradation criteria, right? We're not going to have big stones in there. Or if it's PebbleTec, obviously it's got to meet that gradation. So not only do we want to grade it correctly so the sizing is consistent, but also we're removing impurities. So removing metals and impurities, but also what we call fines. So that's a topic in the industry. So fines is the sandy, gritty stuff, okay? So a lot of our competitors' material has more of that, or kind of the applicators kind of know, yeah, this product has a lot more of those fines. But what fines do, when you're troweling the material and you're troweling in gritty, sandy stuff in there, you may not actually see it when they're finishing it. But what'll happen is, and I don't know if you know the process of a pool finish, but it gets, say, an aggregate finish like pebble sheen, gets installed, okay? The next day, stays empty. The next day, the applicator comes back and generally does an acid wash, which kind of like when you grout tile, you got haze on there. You got to get that haze off. That's what the acid wash does. It
It's
cleans all the
almost
haze
like
off.
if you're doing exposed aggregate concrete, you're going to do a sugar wash to take off just the top layer, just so you can expose the aggregate. Really similar.
I'm not
but different,
too
yeah.
familiar with that portion, or that doing concrete,
Yeah,
necessarily, or exposed concrete.
I think it's the
on
same,
ground.
because it's basically like you've got this thing and it kind of soft cures, if you will, and then you come back and you just scrape off the top layer so that you expose all the aggregate.
Yeah, and I'd say it's similar. I mean, for the most part, the exposure is done on day one.
Okay.
This is just kind of like a haze, like a grout haze. You're just kind of cleaning off the surface,
Okay.
So long story short, though, you get fines in there and you go do the acid wash, you'll have areas where it washes out, because it just disintegrates, right?
There wasn't any bigger product like there was supposed to be there, holding it together.
Right. So what we call that is overexposure. So you have an area of overexposure. And that can happen around the drain, because when you're exposing the whole pool and everything's washing down to the drain, you get fines in the drain, lead to some overexposure. So just those details make or break a good finish, The consistency, the lack of fines. So that's one thing with the aggregate, right? That sets us apart.
Is there, don't know the game, so just curious, like is there any kind of like inspection that goes on by you or the installer or the pool builder or anything? Or is it just kind of like, this is what we got, good job?
Well, so once we authorize an applicator, right, like we're not out on every single job that the applicator does.
For sure.
However, we do have dedicated, particularly we're adding more every year as we're growing, but we have dedicated quality assurance reps. So we have a dedicated quality assurance rep in Phoenix, and that's all he does is go and look at finishes. Maybe he looks at water chemistry issues, or, is our quality assurance team is there to act as the intermediary between the applicator and the builder.
Sure.
So in most cases, we tell the builder, hey, if you have an issue or concern, go to your applicator. That's your subcontractor first and foremost. Try to work it out. Well, maybe they have a difference of opinion as to what the cause of the concern is, or maybe it's a water chemistry issue. Okay.
Yeah, you got to be a full-on genius, I think, for a lot of this water chemistry stuff. Like am I overstating it? But I feel like it's a real skill set.
There's a lot more to know than meets the eye, for sure.
That's what I think
know?
that's what I'm trying to say too.
Yeah.
It's like even like I've heard pool opening,
Yeah.
when you open that pool, it really should be done by somebody that knows what the heck they're doing.
Yep. Yeah. So that's kind of opening would be, I would say, we call it startup. Yeah, we call it startup. Yeah. But technically, opening is a thing like where they drain pools and blow all the lines out, like in Michigan in the winter.
Okay.
And then they start it back up. They like open it.
Okay.
Like same type of thing. Opening, startup.
Startup. Okay.
Startup is mainly
Initial startup after build.
But startup is mainly referring to like you have a brand new finish.
That's what
uncured cement, and you're starting this thing up to get it to cure properly in the first 30 days. That's really the startup. But anyways, where
were we?
I don't know.
This happens.
What we're saying?
No.
Oh, so we were saying
inspections.
Oh, you were saying how to. So I was like, yeah, you trial it, come back, acid wash it. And you said, how is your QA team there every time? No. However, our rep does just pop up on job sites and check in on applicators.
That's killer.
To make sure things
I
are
love
good.
that.
But what I tell builders too, and it's something that first couple of years at PebbleTec I never really talked about, and I started thinking about it. We're not just the quality assurance team that we have isn't just there as a reactive, right? Like if we have a problem, that's when we send QA out. We're also there to help the builders be proactive. So what I mean by that, and what I tell builders now is, okay, here's a hypothetical. You have a really big, complicated pool with a VIP client, right? And you want to give a good visual to your client that this is getting done right, but you also actually want to have another set of eyes on it. Call us up. We will absolutely, give us a little bit of heads up. We will absolutely get one of our quality assurance reps out there to meet on the job site and
a pre-inspect.
Yeah, just to help make sure things look good and communication's good, or right.
I love that.
So
I love that. This has been really fruitful, and it's conversations like this that kind of excite me about the possibility for getting into pool builds with support like this. So with construction knowledge and people on the other side of the aisle that are willing to have your back and stuff. I think there's some learning to happen there. But so you've been there. You've done quite a few things. Matt, what would you leave us with? What would you leave anybody watching this? All 5 of them. What do you want to impart on them to raise the grade, or maybe something about PebbleTec, maybe something about business acumen?
Yeah.
Last call.
One of the this is what I would leave. If we're talking about raising the grade, make it a priority to get educated. Really, honestly, I think that's key, and it goes into a deeper conversation. I mean, again, we talked about the subs and kind of the status quo, right? You just listen to, hey, if this is the way he's been doing it, I trust him. Analyze a little bit further, and I think spend the time and money to get educated. There's organizations out there. If we're talking about the pool industry specifically, there's Watershape University, there's Genesis, there's the National Plasterers Council. There's a lot of groups. There's the American Shotcrete Association. There's a lot of different groups that provide education.
We're going to have to post some of these in the description down below. Matt, this was awesome. Thank you so much. I think we're at a solid hour.
That went by quick.
It happens quick, huh?
I appreciate you having me. It was awesome.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, your calm demeanor is very, very relaxing.
Good.
You just got me all,
Yeah, well, I'm going to try not to fall asleep after 3 of these in a row. So
yeah, that's true.
Thanks again.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
See ya.